that goes on to during our show, which is in my blog right now. There's some 169 people in there right now hanging out.
Okay.
I'll fire it up. Cool. So you don't have to check. That can be distracting, as you probably would know. So I don't really pay too much attention to the chat room as it goes.
Looks like you got the Doug Favell mask up on the top there.
Yeah, I do.
Oh, that's sweet.
Yep.
Yeah.
That is nice. Now, is that from the guy who makes them? There's a guy. I met a guy one time who makes the official, makes exact duplicates. I have a Pelle Lindbergh one somewhere around here.
I don't know. It was
so cool.
I think it was about $60. So.
Maybe yeah. That's so cool. Wow.
It's the same mask that he wore and the same leaf.
Yeah.
Yeah. I remember that.
Goalies were men.
Yeah.
That's fit and everything in a bind if I need one. You know?
I love. Yeah. You never know when you need one of those.
Yeah, you're just giving people a target to shoot at. There you go.
Yeah, basically.
Oh man. And it's fun. My daughter went as a goalie one year for Halloween, but around like in New Jersey, when you grow up, like if you wear a goalie mask like that, everyone's like, "Oh, you're that guy from that Heart." No, we're a hockey fan.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I read a book. There was a book at my grammar school about famous goaltenders, and I read a book about Sawchuk and about Glenn Hall. So I determined that when I played road hockey or street hockey, that I would not wear a mask.
I would advise against that.
Yeah, exactly. But we play with a tennis ball instead of the Milek ball, so it wasn't that bad if I got hit in the face every once in a while. But my friend, my longtime friend Chuck, decided one game that he would do his Dave Schultz imitation and hit me across the face with his stick right there.
Good.
If I was wearing the mask, it wouldn't have done any damage. But Chuck was one of those dirty guys, so he used to do that kind of stuff. I'll remember. I'm gonna get back at you, Chuck.
That'll teach you.
Yeah, son of a gun.
Excellent. All right, so we're just going to talk about you today, Steve, a little bit.
Oh.
Because you're a fascinating character in of itself. We'll get into some Leafs talks as well, and probably talk a little bit about the Islanders disaster. But besides that, since it is the summer, we're going to just mostly focus on. Then this first time we've had you on the show, you, and maybe a little bit of the blogger issue that's going on around. Well, the blogger versus mainstream media, which is very 2007 of us. But we'll see what happens there.
Yeah.
And then the stupid ice thing, because I got challenged by Wisniewski, and I got to do that by the end of the day. So,
I saw that.
Yeah. My kids are all fired up, though. I told them this morning my kids are going to dump ice on my head later. So
I was going to say, are you going to have it drop from the helicopter like Paul Bissonnette did?
No, or like by 10 beautifully bikini-clad women like Scotty Upshaw did. That was a good one. I don't know.
Someone else had a really good one. What was it? Oh, the Kuhlman Grabowski one.
Yeah.
Yes.
I seriously don't think that Dave Nonis and Randy Carlyle are going to even acknowledge those two dolts. So,
can you imagine how much better they would look if they did do it, though?
No, completely.
I agree. But
they
they're
don't
not.
understand the internet or just general cred that would give them. It would help them.
Cred, and it would make Grabowski and Kuhlman look like dicks.
Precisely.
Really challenging these guys.
My opinion.
Yeah. Or more like that. Yes. Perfect. All right, we'll start the show.
My little quip was, after Kuhlman dumped ice on himself, that he gave himself a chill, which is the same thing that Leaf fans had watching him the last 3 years because he scored 23 goals in 188 games. So, if he would have scored a few more goals, then he'd have a better case. But anyway.
Are you saying he wasn't a very good shooter?
Nice.
My Buzz Lightyear. Okay.
All I have, Steve, to represent the Islanders is this head of a Wookiee. Nice. This is this is my head of a Wookiee. I've got props back here too, man. I can match you. All right. Cool. All right, let's do it. We'll start the show. I'll introduce Mike. Obviously, we'll just do our normal introduction. Then I'll introduce Steve. Steve, how would you like to be introduced as far as what you I was going to call you hockey video blogger or hockey vlogger, or without that.
You can call me whatever you want as long as that music comes with it.
Absolutely. All right, so I'm going to talk about the different things you do because your podcast and stuff like that, obviously. So we'll get into that.
Sure.
Perfect.
I'm the Fred Norris of the HockeybuzzCast.
Right, there you go. Yes. Okay, so here we go. Today is the 12th.
The 12th, yes. The
12th of
12th.
August, right. Hello, Hockey World. It is August 12th, 2014.
I'm Michael Agello.
And I am Eklund, and you're watching the Hockey Buzzcast on HockeyBuzz.com. And today we are very, very fortunate and blessed to have probably the biggest hockey vlogger on the planet.
Whoa!
Not via size or just,
Calm down.
But, one of my favorites. And Steve Dangle, how you doing?
Good, man. How are you?
Great. Welcome back from your wedding ceremony and such, and your honeymoon. You had a good time, I'm assuming?
Thank you. Yeah, I did. I don't miss LA traffic and whatever, but there's plenty to do there, and San Francisco is very unique and romantic, and I got very fat in the span of about 2 weeks. It was a good trip.
San Fran will do it. My wife, when we were engaged, she lived out there for about a year, so I spent a year going back and forth between Mountain View and here, and yeah, I know that coast really well. That's fun. That's fun stuff. You guys got up to Napa and everything, I'm sure?
We did, what is it called? Sonoma Valley.
Oh, okay.
Awesome.
Yeah, and that was really cool. Pacific Coast Highway, great honeymoon.
Pacific
Good
Coast
start.
Something else. That's great. Awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. That's wonderful.
I got to thank you for inviting me on the show. We kind of talked about it on Twitter. I said something like you added me. Here's how it went.
Okay, let's go back.
You started following me on Twitter probably a couple years ago or something.
Indeed.
And I screenshotted it, and I'm like, look who followed me, guys. And you're just like, yeah, hi, like a fan of your work, like, what's up? And I just was like a dick to you for really no good reason. And then you stopped following me, and understandably. And yeah, no, I just I'm sorry for that. Like I was doing for no good reason.
It's all good. It's no. I mean, honestly, I don't. It was funny because it was a little bit. Because you'd like to think that you can smell out the good people in this sport, Steve. And watching your stuff, I really loved it. And it was so innovative. First off, I'm a real big fan. And there's other vloggers that I've been following for years, mostly technology based. Like the Philip DeFranco type characters, which I'm sure you draw a lot of comparisons to, because you are basically the Philip DeFranco of hockey.
He's the reason I put the jump cuts in, right? So.
Yeah, no, I mean the jump cuts are great, and where he got them from. Z Frank before him, right? So you ever watched? Are you familiar with Z Frank?
I know the name.
Yeah, you gotta watch his stuff is friggin' phenomenal, and he invented the Philip DeFranco thing. So he is, and that I was always waiting so badly, and at that time I wasn't doing video stuff because I was, anonymous and or whatever, and I was just like, man, if I did it, I would love it. And then I saw you were doing it better than I could ever do, and it just nailed it. And hockey needs it, so
thank you.
You guys have to check out Steve's stuff on YouTube if you haven't already, which you probably have, but it's good stuff.
God. Jeez, thank you very much.
No, seriously, and it is really amazing to me. It's always fun to me to watch the trends in because I'm a big I read more technology blogs than I do hockey blogs. I just love follow the whole thing as it goes, and it's always amazing to me to see how hockey sometimes follows. Years later, or sometimes many years later, to what technology does with the media and how the media works with bloggers and mainstream and all that stuff and video bloggers. And it's so rare that you find somebody who actually knows the sport, who can be entertaining, who can understand how to do it, and the jump cuts are just phenomenal. And that's something. And I'm jealous. Like I say, I'm really jealous that you did it first. Put it that way.
Well, geez, I'm blushing. Thank you.
No,
Thank you.
So
Okay, let's get on to the hockey. Come on.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, enough of the love fest.
No, I'm serious. So you also do a podcast. You also do so you have a video that you do basically run once a week roughly, or how do you do it?
Every single Leaf game, and during the playoffs, I made an effort to do one every day. I didn't quite make it every day, but I did. It was something like 45 or 50 videos throughout the course of the playoffs, and I'm planning on doing more and more this year. Bringing a sponsor on board and kind of being my own boss, being able to devote all my time to it allowed me to do more videos, and I'm hoping I can keep it up this year. I don't know. The thing with being a freelancer is you got to kind of remake what you do every like 6 months. So we'll see how it goes.
And you got to hope that fun, interesting things happen to talk about, right? That's the other thing. It's like that's the greatest thing in the world when something fun happens.
Well, we're talking about
you covered the Leafs.
Well, we're talking about Toronto, right? Sorry, that's true.
It's the gift that keeps on giving there, Steve.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. You know, Ricard Wallin, just a list of amazing names that come through. Oh yeah.
Oh, man. So you're a lifelonger? Are you a Toronto Leafs fan? Are you from the area too?
Yeah, from Scarborough, which wasn't part of Toronto when I was born, but it now is. Just moved up to Oshawa because Toronto is basically unaffordable to people my age.
Yeah.
And I've been a Leaf fan ever since. Like one of my first Leaf memories is the Kings series in '93.
There's a pleasant one.
Good times.
Yeah, exactly. First ever game. God, it was Leafs Wings. I couldn't even tell you who was in net for the Wings. I think they had Paul Eisebart still at the time. And
there you go.
Hotman was in net for the Leafs. And just been a lifer. I don't know why, but, because hockey doesn't exactly, run in my family, really, but I've just loved it from day one.
That's awesome. No, and it is such a fun fan base to follow from afar because obviously without Toronto, I probably wouldn't have a job. It's that good of a fan base that it just follows every. You know what I mean? It's an amazing city considering they haven't won since a few months before I was born.
Remind us, Zach, please.
Yeah. There you go. So so now you also do the audio podcast and that is how often do you do that?
That is twice a week during the season. It's once a week right now because, we might stretch ourselves a little thin. How many more times are we going to talk about Kyle Dubas? How many more times can we break down the Daniel Winnick signing? So we'll pick that back up. I'm not sure exactly when, but right now it's once a week. It'll be twice a week with Adam Wilde of Kiss 92.5 and producer Chris James of CHFI.
Yeah, you guys do a great job. Really professional sounding podcast. A lot of fun. Mike?
I was going to say, come on, that Patrick Watling signing has got to be big news right now there, Steve.
Huge. Huge. Well, you got to love Jeffler because, I barely even knew that signing even happened, and he's already got a post up on theleafsnation.com.
Yeah,
I'm like, all right.
Our buddy Jeffler. Let's just touch on Dubas because there's been some debate right now how much of an influence he's had. They've made a couple depth signings for the Marlies with Watling and Finley, which I'm not sure if they're even gonna be on the Marlies next year. They're probably gonna play in the ECHL. But there was a lot of talk that he may have had some influence in the signing of Winnick because Winnick was a Corsi darling. And then it came out that they were talking to Winnick as far back as July 1st. Do you think that he is, right now just sort of like moving into the organization and will have his influence going forward, or do you think he already has his fingerprints on things?
Well, I'm sure he has his fingerprints on things a little bit. He is part of the Leafs organization, but something I kind of talked about on the podcast last week was. It's not like he was brought into the organization cold. Like, I have a very hard time believing that. He was probably interviewed for a very long time or researched for a very long time. How do you feel about this? We have this Jake Gardiner situation going on. You're not part of the organization, but if you were, how would you handle it? We're thinking about giving him this. Well, I think I would give him this. Okay, we're talking to Daniel Winnick. We're not too keen on signing him. What do you think? Well, I would definitely sign him. So I'm sure he offered his opinion on things, and I'm sure he's dabbled a bit. But if the Leafs are an enormous success this season, I don't think it'll be because of Kyle Dubas. And if they are a colossal failure, I don't think it'll be because of Kyle Dubas. He's just getting in, and he's putting on some touches. He's there to... What's his title, right? Assistant GM. He's there to assist the GM. So, what excites me most about him isn't, this analytics thing or this, whatever. It's that he's been on the cutting edge for so long, right? He was a GM of an OHL team at 25. NHLPA certified agent at 22 or whatever, makes you go, what the hell am I doing with my life? But it's the team that can afford it the most, the Toronto Maple Leafs, the richest team in the sport, hiring someone that's on the cutting edge. Which you always see other teams make these little signings, and they picked up this guy, and they got that scout, and this team's got this scout, and that's how they keep having success in this area. And I'm like, where's the Leafs guy in that department? They're rich. There's no salary cap for anything but players, and they, fingies crossed, hopefully finally have that guy.
Yeah, and Ryan Lambert of Yahoo wrote a blog on this last week. He said that it was a brilliant move by Brendan Shanahan, not only because he's a young guy, a young Turk who, but he diffuses the blogosphere, the analytics crowd, from any kind of criticism of the organization, because now they can't say, well, the Leafs, they suck because they're not into analytics.
Now, wait a second, hold on. I want to stop that right there, because this is the thing. When is ever hiring a blogger diffuse the blogosphere crowd?
Well, he's not a blogger, but
I'm not a blogger, but like a younger kid. Like, I'm not saying I know Edmonton sort of hired a blogger, but I think that this I don't know. Do you think this diffuses them really? I mean, one thing the Maple Leafs has never been short of is assistant GMs. I mean, they've had.
Yeah. Well, it diffuses me because I'm happy to announce on this show that I've just been hired by the Toronto Maple Leafs as a consultant. So
fantastic.
Going to clean things up. Colton Orr is going to be the greatest goalie this organization's ever had, and just you watch.
You're going to make Jake Gardner a center just like Red Kelly back in the 60s? There you go.
Absolutely. And if you think I'm wrong, well, you're probably right. But whatever, I work for the Leafs. So, look, I don't think, a team with the kind of money the Toronto Maple Leafs have would make a decision to appease Twitter.
I'd like to hope not,
Right. I want to think they made this decision because it's the right decision. They're a team that, if they miss the playoffs this year, that's 9 out of 10 years. That's unacceptable. It's unacceptable for the Phoenix Coyotes. It's unacceptable for a team that's broke. This is the Toronto Maple Leafs. Imagine if the Yankees or Manchester United or, take any of the colossal teams in any sport. If they suck for this long, it'd be a riot. So they clearly needed a change. I didn't necessarily agree with the Burke firing at the time, but the argument was there that, well, he's been here for X amount of years and he hasn't gotten results. Dave Poulin and Claude Lozelle had been there for quite a while, and how did the Leafs do while they were there? Well, they made the playoffs once and they got one series deep.
Right.
So
and I think these guys,
time for a change.
Yeah, they get the business. They understand that it's result oriented. I thought Burke did a pretty good job at building a team and from afar. I'm a Burke fan in general. I thought that patience was pretty crazy, and I actually was a fan of trading away first round draft picks because I'm a big anti-fan of Tank Nation. The whole concept of it, I hate it. And at least that diffused that part of it to me. I'm like, okay, now you don't have to worry about that because those picks aren't there anymore.
Great. You really want to diffuse the opportunity to get Tyler Seguin or John.
But I like the aggressiveness, I guess. I do like I do think that the progressive aspect of this signing is what's most exciting, Steve, like you're saying.
Yeah, I like that they got a guy who's on the cutting edge, and okay, David Booth's advanced stats are good, and okay, Daniel Winnick's advanced stats are good. Okay, what you have heard, I think, a lot in the blogosphere is this is a step in the right direction. Yeah. I don't think anybody is saying that the Leafs are dramatically improved. In fact, most of what I've read is that they are going to be roughly the same, could even be worse if the goaltending takes a dip.
Well, that's what I was going to ask you, Steve, because I know that one of my main critiques of the offseason, I like the majority of their moves, but the one thing is that you had this kabuki theater in April announcing the hiring of Shanahan and mentioning culture change over and over and over again. And my definition of culture change is significant changes to the core of the roster. They didn't do that. They changed the depth of the management staff, they changed the depth of the coaching staff, and they changed the depth of the roster. But they didn't change Phaneuf or core players. I mean, we don't know. You and I don't have a crystal ball, so we're not going to know whether that's going to be successful or not. But what was your impression of overall of the moves that they made?
Well, my overall impression was pretty good. I have mixed feelings about the Carl Gunnarsson Roman Polak trade. I was always such a big fan of Gunnar, but you got to get some sort of value for him if you feel like maybe his hip will never be the same. Right. And if he is good, which I hope he's healthy, he should be a big part of St. Louis's roster. Other than that, Leo Komarov got a pretty nice payday, but I love him as a player. I'm excited to see what Conciola can do. I think Santorelli was a pretty poignant signing, or prudent signing. Booth was good. Winnick was good. It's not even that the Leafs got some great hockey players this offseason. I think they're kind of pushing out some guys who aren't. I mentioned Colton Moore, and sure, I think you need to have some toughness on your team. But who's to say those guys that I just mentioned don't have a little bit of toughness in them? And it's a hockey game. You got to be able to play hockey, and I just don't feel like he can anymore.
Well, and that was Burke's issue, right? I think that's where that was Burke's. There were two Achilles heels to Burke in my opinion. One was his devotion to Ron Wilson, which just lasted way too long, and the other was that like he did have a big belief in the Colton Moores of the world still, and you had to have a few of them on your team. And like you said, just Santorelli, he's not this is not a wimpy guy. I mean, he can go out there and hit, and he can go out there and play. Winnick, same way. These aren't they aren't necessarily known for that, but they are physical enough, and I think that you're better off going with physical players who can also play hockey at this point, because you need 4 lines. We've seen it. Every team that makes it far in the playoffs, you need 4 lines. Exactly.
Well, and maybe I'm reading too much into this, but I feel like the sort of thing, playing 4 lines, what a concept, is the sort of thing that can improve lines 1, 2, and 3 as well, because you're not stretching them thin. Maybe Phil Kessel has a little more jump, Kadri has a little more jump. Right. Maybe you don't have to play Lupul quite as much 5-on-5, and therefore he's less likely to get double-teamed by a pair of Flyers and be out for a couple weeks.
Right.
That's a whole lot of maybes I just said. But you never know. I do have optimism.
August is the month of maybe. August is the month of maybes. That's why we're here, right? I mean, this is the time, and I agree with what you're saying. I think that is now when you go out and you sign the Winnicks and the Booths, you've got like 2 ways to go with that, and even Santorelli. When you sign the 1-year deal, guys, you're either you're taking chances like they did last year, and when and it works out for them with with players who sign short deals. Of course, you lose them eventually, or you're like the Florida Panthers, and these guys are trade deadline bait. That's the hard thing to understand here, because a lot of the times when the Panthers do it, they get criticized because they're signing these 1-year deals as guys because they don't have the youngsters to play those spots, or the youngsters aren't coming up to fill those spots. So that's sort of the border they're traversing here, I guess. Is what I'm saying.
Yeah, the other thing there though is the Leafs just seem to keep running into this problem of depth and just crazy amounts of injury. And so, anyone who is disappointed because they wanted to see a guy like Greg McKegg or a guy like Josh Levo or maybe more of Petter Granberg, Stuart Percy, you're going to get to see those guys.
Yeah.
People are going to get hurt. I mean, it's, not often guys go on these miracle runs of, I think the Kings, the first time they won the Cup, used the same 6 defensemen the whole time. That just doesn't happen.
Exactly.
It's very rare, sorry.
It's fun. It's funny that looking at the Hockey News preview of the Leafs, they have to speak to what you're just talking about. They had Carter Ashton penciled in as the 3rd line left winger. Yeah. I don't think Carter Ashton, even before they signed Booth and before they signed Winnick, was going to make this team, because he had 3 assists in 47 career games and has never shown any kind of ability to do anything. Now, I know he played 4th line minutes and he played with Cole Noor, but he had to show something in those little snippets of time. And I don't know if the organization has a lot of confidence in him.
I don't think they do either, and I think it's about time they trade him and get something for him and not just leave the guy to hang out to dry. Because right now, to get a little plug in there, right before I joined you guys, I was putting together my list of top 20 Leaf prospects for a feature we're going to be doing on theleafsnation.com, and I saw Carter Ashton was on the list. I'm like, man, really? This guy's still a prospect? Like, I don't know where to put him.
Yeah.
And all season long in the videos I defended him. I'm like, he's playing 3 minutes a night, and he's playing with pylons. Like, how do you possibly judge a guy like Carter Ashton? It's difficult. Yeah. I don't have him very high.
Yeah.
I will say that it's not entirely impossible that he could have a pretty decent NHL career. I definitely don't think it's in Toronto, though.
Right. Yeah, it seems like it isn't, and you're right. I mean, when do you judge a prospect? When is a prospect no longer a prospect? To me, once they've played as many games as he has in the NHL, that's not really a prospect in my mind. But it is. That's a tough one because just because he's not getting a lot of playing minutes or points, doesn't mean he's still a prospect.
He's been with them for 3 full pro seasons.
Yeah, and I think he does deserve a better fate, and might very well succeed in the right situation. And he is a talented kid, and they did trade for him for a reason.
Yeah. Exactly.
They did. So yes. So So where can people find that blog exactly? And I know it's not up yet, but where do you write for us to tell the folks as well?
TheLeafsNation.com, and add the because some jerk stole LeafsNation.com. TheLeafsNation.com.
TheLeafsNation.com. Excellent.
I hope it wasn't Ack.
I don't know who it was. Yeah, and that's why I have Steve_Dangle on Twitter. Some guy took Steve Dangle before I even got to him.
All right, that's crazy. That's like the benefit of joining Twitter back in there was no one on Twitter when I joined Twitter.
Yeah.
That's we have a lot of our writers aren't be able to get there, and then you could just be Mike in Buffalo, which is totally confusing.
No, it's not.
Your name. You got to use your name, Mike. Come on. Somebody already probably had it too. I bet you somebody has stolen Mike Ogello.
Yes, but I can go Michael, I can go Mike, I can go MP, I can do everything. So.
True. That's a good point. All right, so let's talk a little bit about the Islanders mess. Getting away from the Leafs for a second because we have to fill up the news day today. The Islanders apparently were sold in the middle of the night.
What? I didn't even know about this.
Oh yeah. This is a good story. Wow. So there was one deal that the Islanders, and this is the kind of thing that. This is how the NHL is incredibly secretive about all their team sales. It's the one thing you can never get anything on because if a person basically talks about, you talk about Fight Club, you're done. Essentially, that's how so no one ever talks about this. So the New York, Mike, tell the story. It's a really great story.
Well, the speculation in the New York media over the last month was a gentleman by the name of Barroway was the leading contender to buy the team from Mr. Wong. And last week the report came out that talks had broken off. Now, the New York Daily News reported yesterday that the team had been sold to another party, and immediately Mr. Barroway is suing Wong for $10 million. So I think the funny thing would be
August 1st to another party. I mean, that 12 days ago.
Yeah, I think the funny thing would be is if the new owner of the New York Islanders would be John Spano.
Surely, I mean the Islanders situation just continues to baffle me. Are they still moving to Brooklyn, Mike? Is that still the?
No, I don't think that's going to affect anything. They've already are contractually agreed to move into into Brooklyn at the end of this year. They have to get out of the Nassau Coliseum.
They do, but I understand that the Brooklyn deal was kind of worked out by Barroway, who is now suing them for money because he was let loose. So that doesn't sound like that deal is going to be all that sweet.
Now, what would be strange is if the new owner of the Islanders is the same owner, and I have nothing, but I'm just speculating here. If it's the same guy, Prokhorov, who owns the New Jersey Nets, or the Brooklyn Nets, excuse me. That would make a little bit of sense because then there'd be both tenants in the same building, but it's also a Russian-based owner, and there are some problems with the NBA with that being the case, and he's a big friend, close friend of Mr. Putin. So I'm wondering whether he
that always is a good thing, and we love.
Putin loves sports, by the way.
Putin does love sports, but man,
he's involved in everything. I thought he had a country to run.
You would think so, although, my gosh, not to get political, but what Putin did yesterday is just is the most absurd thing ever. But
what did he do?
Well,
He's
yesterday
taking out his army to drive
I
down.
don't get on the show. You just tell me the news.
Okay, yeah, come on in, Steve. So this is what happens. Okay, so he runs a country called Russia, and there's another country near him called the Ukraine.
Fair enough.
No, all right, so this is the deal. No, because the whole, all the world is trying to force him out of the Ukraine by sanctions, right? And what's happening, and that means that we're not sending food to them. So yesterday he created a law that they're not allowed to accept food from foreign countries for a year. So essentially what this now 70% of their food comes from foreign countries. So so instead of he basically I'll sanction your ass back at you, and I'll say we won't even accept it even if you gave them to us. So that's where this pissing match has gone to.
Yeah, and he's got 40,000 troops piled on the Russian-Ukrainian border, ready to encircle a certain city in southern Ukraine, like the 6th SS Panzer Division did in 1943.
And so the Russian people who are scattered around, like a country the size of 12 United States of Americas, have to be sitting back and saying, you're not going to let us buy food now? This is just. So anyway, if Putin is involved in this deal with the island moving to Brooklyn in any way, shape, or form, I'm all for it. Yeah, that's what the hell, Mike. So how is Putin connected to this?
No, I'm saying the owner of the Brooklyn Nets is Prokhorov. He's a Russian national. He's best buddies with Putin. I don't even know if Prokhorov is involved in the sale. All I know is I find it very strange that the NHL has not announced.
There's nothing a New Yorker will do quicker, a Brooklyn kid, than support a Putin friend. This is how's this going? How's this going to work? My God, that's nuts.
I love the Islanders. Who's more reliable than the Islanders?
Maybe the going, but and the crazy thing is this, Steve. They have among U.S. fans one of the greatest fan bases around. They are just their fans are so passionate. They're absolutely. They're right there. They are completely. When the Islanders are playing well, most of them grew up when the Islanders were really good. So in the '80s when so my God, holy frig.
They make the Florida Panthers look well run.
Yeah. I'm with you on that. So now, should we just move them to Markham, Steve? Is that what we should do? Do we need a team up in Markham?
I think Oshawa. Actually, no.
You don't want to drive that far, right? You just want to get in your.
There's a lot of traffic going on, and they're putting in the 407, and there's going to be put them in Oshawa, I think.
Yeah, they're gonna blow up the Gardner, so
or do it Phoenix style. Call them the Oshawa whatevers, but actually put it in Curtis, Ontario, on farmland or whatever. Oh yeah, that'll be our Ottawa style. That'll be great. Yeah.
Surely there's got to be a trading post 60 miles outside of town that you can set up a little stadium and then try to build them all around. Come on, that's got to work.
Yeah, and the Curtis Flea Market can sell parking, and it'll be a huge boost to the rural east of Toronto community.
And the diehard Leaf fans will drive out there 4 times a year when the Leafs play them.
I'll walk out there. It'll be great.
Right.
It'll be great for me.
Isn't the biggest fallacy out there that the disenchanted Maple Leaf fans will flock to this team if a team moves to Markham? That they'll just flock to that team, and they'll be just as financially successful as the Maple Leafs. I think that is a pipe dream. I think that it'll be successful if a team moves there. I just think it's like the Chicago White Sox and the Chicago Cubs. Even if the Cubs suck, they make more money than the White Sox do. Don't you think that's what's going to be the case?
I think they'll be successful too, but what I would like to see is something that maybe I'm completely off base on this, but it's something that the states have that Canada kind of lacks. These sports rivalries of two teams, two fan bases that are super close to one another.
Yeah.
We're a little too spread out, but it was just driving down in Cali. I see San Francisco's got a bunch of teams, and they don't like the LA teams, and then there's teams within LA that they don't like, and then there's the LA Angels of Anaheim. I don't even know what the hell's going on there. So,
and the Oakland Raiders.
Yeah, the Oakland Raiders. I would like to see two teams that close together, and then you add in Buffalo to the mix.
Mhm.
Ottawa's just to drive up the road. Detroit. It's amazing that the Leafs have only played Detroit like once every couple of years, in recent memory, when Detroit is actually the second closest team to Toronto geographically, behind Buffalo. It'd be nice to have that little busy pocket of hockeyness.
Well, there's the strange thing, and I've always wondered because I'm a Leaf fan, former Leaf fan, member of the media now, a lifetime Buffalonian. As a kid used to be a Sabres fan, now just a fan of the league in general. There is a history of rivalry between the Sabres and the Leafs, but it seems to be a one-sided, acrimonious relationship with Buffalo hating Toronto because they're Toronto, and Toronto just saying, okay, it's Buffalo, and not really paying attention. It's not even a rivalry, not even after the Phil Kessel-John Scott thing last year. So I don't know how much it's in the in the blood of natives of Ontario to have that antagonistic relationship like the Mets fans and the Yankees fans do against each other in New York. I don't know if it's going to play that.
That is this, Mike. I mean, Quebec and Montreal. That was.
Oh yeah.
I mean, yeah. That was and no one. I mean, Montreal is a very similar situation to Toronto. Everybody in Quebec was a huge Canadiens fan. Everybody in Markham is a huge Leafs fan, and yet that whole thing got. I mean, that was nuts. And to this day, there's I remember talking to Marty Biron, who grew up a Nordiques fan. His dream was to play for the Nordiques because they were there, and everybody else in his family grew up a Montreal Canadiens fan. I don't think they'll ever be the Leafs. I mean, for crying out loud, I'm glad I'm glad the whole Jim Bosley thing didn't work out in terms of his idea of putting them both the teams in the same city eventually, which is one of Bosley's counter plans, was to build that 60,000 seat stadium or whatever it was that both teams could play in.
Yeah,
I'm glad that didn't work out. I don't think they should be.
What, at the same time?
Yeah, basically.
50,000 people.
Right, I know. No, but he said his idea was the Leafs can sell 50,000 tickets or whatever it is to every game, and then our team will come in there and we'll put our tickets on sale for $5 a piece and we'll make money. And that is definitely diluting the market. There's no question about that. But I think Markham's far. It's it's a couple hours away, correct? I mean, I don't know Canadian geography.
From Toronto, not at all.
Oh, it's not.
45 minutes at the most.
Oh, 45 minutes. Okay, that's good. See, that's like Philly and the Devils are just over an hour apart from each other, and that's got a great rivalry going. But that is a little bit I always think of the Devils in your scenario, in your allegory, Mike, as as the Sabres. Like the Flyers care about the Rangers, and the Devils are like, come on, care about us, care about us, care about us. It's kind of. I think the Leafs care about the Canadians, and the Sabres are like, come on, we're down here.
I mean, the only thing the Sabres care about is the fact that 8,000 Leaf fans invade their arena every year, and the Sabres season ticket holders pay for their season tickets on the backs of Leaf fans who buy the tickets for the 2 or 3 games that they do. And by the way, there's good luck for the Sabres season ticket holders selling their tickets this year with the team that they're going to put on the ice.
You speak like you have personal experience in this, Mike.
Yeah. No comment.
This is exactly your story, isn't it?
Yes.
Okay, there you go. So Steve, I agree with you, Steve. I'd like to see that. I think I would. I think it could work. I mean, Oshawa though, put him in Oshawa. Call him the Generals. Come on, bring it on.
Let's do it. And the junior team won't even change their name. We'll just have 2 generals.
Right. Or what's below a general in the Canadian Army or
Colonel.
Oshawa Colonels.
Colonels. Yeah, that's not prime real estate.
The logo will be a popcorn.
Yeah, I was just about to say there you go.
Plenty of good jokes to be made there. That's awesome.
We'll have Berkey's Doghouse, and they'll have Colonels, and it'll just be this giant gourmet thing. Like they can take these plans if they want. They can give me a cut or whatever, but just great cheddar and jalapeno and caramel corn.
DM.
Wow.
Got it. Trademarked by Mr. Steve Dangle. You heard it here first. If in any way, shape, or form the Oshawa Generals change their name to anything at all related to corn, you've got it.
Ooh. and their arena can be called the Maze.
Ah.
Oh, there you go.
Right. And of course the popcorn power play, the Jiffy popcorn power play. Who could do better than that? Seems like a good time to stop the show.
Somebody saying yes.
Real quickly, I will address the Devin Setaguchi rumors that I was hearing today because I have to, by the law, talk about the rumors a little bit. And this is the so basically the Islanders. Islanders. Funny enough, I have to bring in that the Islanders are a team interested in Setaguchi, the Senators as well, and there's a third team. And of
Toronto.
course, why Setaguchi is still available is talking to people around him is that he's trying to get a 2-year deal, which I don't see happening at all. But that's why he's still available. That they say there's 1-year deals out for them, but then again they would say that. So it kind of reminds me of a little bit of the same stuff we were hearing from Del Zotto, was wanting a 2-year deal as well and ended up taking a 1-year deal. So perhaps the same thing happens with Setaguchi. But I do think it'll happen soon. A good thing about Setaguchi, it does sound like that this is the week of where everyone's going to make up their mind and just either make this decision or that decision. So hopefully Setaguchi, we won't be talking about him much longer.
Well, and if he doesn't sign by this week, then it's probably going to be the Mason Raymond scenario of him getting an invitation to a training camp and then signing for. I mean, Mason Raymond got $1 million as a training camp invite. So
It's
it's
not bad.
No, it's not bad.
Not a bad deal if he get it. And then now he has he signed for $3.5 million. So he did pretty well, Mason Raymond, for himself.
Yeah.
Exactly. Good for him, and he did well for the Leafs too.
He did, and I know a lot of people thought they wanted to try to keep him around. This is when you have, but the difference is Mason Raymond's agent was really smart about the way he handled that whole thing, and he put him into a tryout with a team that he knew that he could succeed with the Leafs. So, and these are two teams the two teams at least that I know of in Ottawa and the Islanders where Setaguchi could have a chance to succeed too. So that's the same kind of scenario, but I think a 2-year deal is a long shot. That's all the time we have for today. If you're in the chat room, we are going to be recording a second podcast in 15 minutes because I'm taking off next week. So we're going to have Russ Cohen on. It's just going to be on YouTube, but you can watch it live when we're doing it, but it won't be available in the stream until next week. So Russ Cohen on to talk about the Rangers in 15 minutes. So Mike and I are just going to go change shirts, not with each other, but just change our own shirts. And
I'm in Buffalo, so we're not in the same room.
Right. And also, other thing I have to say is this. Yes, I did accept Puck Daddy Greg, his wonderful challenge to drop ice on my head. I'll be doing that at an hour after the podcast, so in a couple hours from now, my kids are all excited upstairs and going to do that. And then but I'm going to challenge people that you guys really would like to see ice strapped on their heads. Not people like me, but people like Julian Page and people like that. Who wants to see ice dropped on my head when you could have it dropped on Julie Robenheimer or Paige Lewis?
It's not a challenge for me because I live in Buffalo. I have ice dumped on my head every day I step out in December and January. So.
Yeah, the ice challenge for you, otherwise known as February. Yes, there you go. Steve, thanks so much for coming on.
Thanks for having me. Thank you very much.
Anytime, and and I don't even remember what happened before now. So, good.
Good.
We'll have you on again. Nah, you weren't at all. I'll have you on again for sure. And if you remember to check out Steve Dangle on Twitter at Steve_Dangle, correct?
You got it.
Steve_Dangle, and also if you get a chance to, definitely check out his YouTubes because they're really entertaining, and the podcast as well, and at theleafnation.com, right? Theleafnation.com.
Theleafsnation.com.
Theleafsnation.com. Sorry about that.
It's okay.
All right, cool. That'll all be in the show notes, so you don't have to listen to me now. All right, talk to you soon, guys. Remember, without the buzz, it's just hockey.